WCNC Charlotte. This is Flashpoint, where power and politics collide and the tough questions get asked and answered.
Thanks for joining us here on Flashpoint. I'm Ben Thompson. A lot has been made about how young people impacted the results from this year's election. Both campaigns spending millions of dollars and thousands of hours trying to sway the youth vote in the months leading up to the election. For the Trump campaign, it appears those efforts worked out. Tufts University estimating youth voter turnout in battleground states may have been up to 50% higher than it was in 2020. Dig into the numbers and we see some interesting trends here. Tufts estimates almost 15% more than half of young men voted for Trump this year, more than in 2020. Young women giving Vice President Harris an 18% swing, but just not enough to push her over the finish line. So today we're chatting with some young people with a passion for politics to see what they believe is behind some of these trends. Joining us now is Emily Stack with the North Carolina Young Republicans. She's in Raleigh this morning. Emily, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me on.
All right, first off, battleground states like North Carolina saw an almost 50% higher young voter turnout than the other 43 states. And your party's made some inroads. Why do you think that is?
Honestly, I think it's because a lot of North Carolinians, especially the younger voters, are feeling the impact of having the situation of a dire economy and the dire economy at the moment. Right now, there's young people getting out of college. They can't find jobs. There's young individuals that can't afford homes. And that's the conversations we've been having on the ground, at least. And so they've been fired up to go to the polls and make a difference.
We should say Democrats had their wins, especially on the statewide level. The governor's race, lieutenant governor, attorney general, they broke the supermajority in the General Assembly. How do you explain why your party seemed to win over voters in some elections, but not others?
Honestly, quite a few of those races we kind of predicted they were going to wash out the way they did. It's always gone that way as far as North Carolina. Historically, you see the presidential race typically goes towards North Carolina. It's always a bit of a toss-up. You're not, it's like, oh, is it going to go this way? It's going to go that way. But in the past few elections, it's gone for the Republican presidential pick. But then going down ballot, the governor, at least in the past two, aside from Pat when he lost his, or after Pat when he lost his race, we've gone for a Democratic governor, and then lieutenant governor's kind of been either way since Dan Forrest. I mean, that's just historically it's been that way for us, and that's honestly probably because of down ballot. When you get down the ballot, a lot of people kind of either skip to the next one or they only come out for president.
Do you think Mark Robinson's gubernatorial run, do you think it hurt the other down ballot races?
I believe it probably did hurt the top two as far as the attorney general race and the lieutenant governor race. But after that, you see a little bit of a differential going for the Council of State. Some of the individuals were able to pull out on their own, so far as like Luke Farley, who actually is a young Republican, and Mike Causey and Dave Bullock and the like.
Do you feel like, how was, on the presidential level, how do you think President Trump himself played a role in this, in winning over some of those young voters? I mean, we've said, that Kamala Harris had Oprah and Beyonce and Taylor Swift, but he had some of the podcasters that seemed to be quite beneficial for him. Why did he make inroads this time that he did not make the last two times he ran for president?
I think this time there was a bit more of, people, you can like the social, you can like Taylor Swift, you can like all of those things. But when it comes down to it, I think it came down to the issues. And that's where people came out to vote, especially for younger voters. Like I said, you can like pop culture, but if at the end of the day, if you can't afford groceries, that's not going to make a difference on how you vote.
Let's talk about women, especially young women concerned about a Trump presidency and what it could mean for reproductive rights. You obviously don't share those same concerns, or at least not to the same degree. What would your message be to them?
So when we were looking at statistics for women voters, younger voters, male voters, all of that after the fact, there was a good percentage of turnout for women that voted conservatively. And I think a lot of that has to do with their concern issues as far as careers. And I think, that reproductive rights ended up being maybe ranking 6th as far as a concern and priority for the person that came out to vote, including women. At least the Republican women voter. Like I myself, I'm much more concerned about the economy, and that is a driving force for me and a lot of our female young Republicans who get out to the polls and vote.
What role did you think that I mentioned it a second ago, but the podcasters? Do you think, and it's not just podcasting, but I think there's something to be said about being able to go and speak in front of different audiences, no matter the medium, can help win some people over. If you say you were advising the Harris campaign, would you have told them to rethink their strategy?
I think I would have, honestly, and it's not necessarily the factor of celebrities and podcasters. I'd say the issue was that they weren't really going to the people and asking, hey, what is it that you care about? Because they're having these, honestly, the funny thing is I did hear this on TikTok. This one activist had said, they're having LA conversations in these rural areas. And it was really the rural areas that pulled out and pulled through on the vote. So if they come out and have these conversations with the local areas, they'll find these are the issues that they care about, not, I guess, so to speak, big city issues.
In your view, going over the next couple of years, both here locally at a statewide level and a federal level, what do you think Republicans need to do to stay focused and, in your view, be successful?
Honestly, as long as they keep listening to the people that elected them, that's what will help drive them to a successful, going into the successful elections and successful legislation.
All right, Emily Stack with the North Carolina Young Republicans. Emily, thanks for joining us. We do appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Up next on Flashpoint, we hear from Democrats about their reaction to how young people impacted their results.